All right, drawing class, today we're going to do the shading and the shadowing and everything on our fish. And just get your pencil, your stuff together, and let's get going. All right, drawing class, we're going to go to the outline that you drew on your fish. And those of you who are in more advanced, I kind of expect you to do both fish. And let's get started on all the shadows and highlights and everything. We're going to put in our halftones, which is this color gray. And then we're going to put in our internal shadow, which is in here. And we're going to leave this part across the top, barely any pencil at all. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to use my dirty Tertullian for that part. And if you don't have a Tertullian, you can use the cotton swab or just take a bit of tissue and wrap it around your finger, and you'll be able to blend that way as well. Oh, there's tape on my tissue. There we go. So let's get started. We're going to come in using the side of your pencil. You're laying the whole pencil down at this angle in order to softly get your halftones in. There is a line going through this little fin there. Remember when we talk about cylinders or spheres, egg shapes, all those things, you know, your halftones go about halfway around a round object. So we're going to make sure that we get our halftones in all the way down using the side of our pencil. Then I want to use, I want to put just a little bit at the top on the other side so it looks like it's going around. And the highlight is more towards the center part of the fish itself. Make sure you're going oval, oval, oval with your strokes. And then we're going to put in the internal shadow. So anything that's round, and you're not going to take this to the very edge because there's that, you know, reflected light. So we're going to put in our internal shadow. And you can actually blend between every part. I don't know what I do with my Tertullian. Okay, you can blend between every part. So you can blend your halftones and then come back and put your internal shadow in, and then blend your internal shadow and just, you know, keeping it all nice and smooth. The shadow of this gill is like right in front. So we're going to put that in as well. And we're just kind of working on his body. And I'm going to go grab my Tertullian. Okay. This is a paper stump, and this is a Tertullian. It's kind of flattened on one end, but you're going to use the long edge anyway. So even if you have one that's pushed in, you're going to lay it sideways and blend it out until you've gotten your body of your fish done. I'm just going to go ahead and use this a little bit longer one. This is going to create a nice soft background for all of our scales and texture in this fish. You're laying it down completely like this angle and blending it as well. Coming across the top. That's probably a little darker for the top than when I'm going to leave it. If you remember, you can do the drag erase method. So you're just laying your eraser down and just letting the weight of it just lighten the pencil that's there. You're not pushing with it. It will get dirty because it's picked that up. You just clean it off. And you can lighten some more if you need to. But I want a light color for the fish at the top and more of a white area right below that. Now I have these harsh lines across here, so I'm just going to soften those with my dirty Tertullian or my Q-tip or whatever you happen to have in order to create this part of your fish. Now each one of the fins are also, it goes from light to dark. Even this one that's behind this one goes from light to dark. These have a light on the back side, so the light's coming in this way, and then it's dark on this side. It's darker here at the bottom, lighter at the edge, darker here in the middle, lighter on the edges. So just keep that in mind as you're working, and you're going to put in, using the side of your pencil, you're going to put in those halftones over the whole of the fin. You're going to blend it out. This is a very dirty Tertullian. So if yours is really dirty, you know how to clean it in the back of your book. We've gone through that a few times. If you go outside the lines, it's no big deal. You just erase it, right? Just take that out. Don't be upset with the process. And we're going to dirty up our other fins. Since my Tertullian is nice and dirty, I'm going to just fill it in. This one is pretty dirty on the bottom side because the body of the fish is casting a shadow here. So we're going to do a gradation. That means you're going to put it dark, then you're going to lighten the pressure as you come out, and then you're going to blend it. The same with the tail fins. Oval, oval, oval. Okay, so we have our blended fish, and now you're going to go back and look at all the dark lines and all the highlights and all the highlights in the scales themselves. You've got this picture to look at, so we're going to go ahead and put in the pupil part, or the dark part of his eye. We're also going to put in the shadow side of the eye just kind of this tube that comes out away from his face on both sides. And now we're going to use just the edge of our eraser. If you have one of those mono zero erasers, you could even use the eraser off of a mechanical pencil, you know, whatever you happen to have. And you're just going to touch and pull, just, you know, a little bit of a highlight right where you want it, and then touch and pull that away. And this one, I pretty much left the white of the paper, so you're going to get this little bit of a shine look to your eye. I'm going to darken up this one side. Make sure it's nice and round. Mine was getting a little bit oval. And then there's kind of a ring around the eye a little bit. And we're just going to soften that out. It's very slight. And we're just building up our details. So I'm going to turn the book this way to put my gill, I guess, back in. Because once I blended, it went away. Sometimes you have to go back and re-put in your blacks. Remember that. So this is my gill area. And then we're going to start putting in our darks. So along this fin on the one on the other side, try not to set your hand in your drawing, so turn your book however you want to. You want to always check this side of your hand and make sure that you don't have any pencil on it in order to keep your drawing clean and not smear up the background, even though in this particular picture the background is almost black. There's a bunch of little rocks, some out of focus things, but my printer didn't really show that really well. It came out kind of dark. So we're going to come inside and follow the pattern that we see. Don't just start coloring anywhere. Look at your picture and see where the darks and the lights are. So we're going to put that dark in at the bottom, this dark on the inside. And then we're going to lift off the highlights. Now, this particular highlight comes back and then down. So we're going to put this, erase away this highlight back and then down on this one, and a little bit on that one as well. Take your Tertullian, soften any edges so that you don't have harsh lines on anything that's soft, you know, flour or anything like that. And we're going to come back and put just a little bit of dark on this part of the fish. We're going to blend that out. We're going to put the shadow side of this fin in here, and then there's this light along the edge. So we're going to come back in and make it darker along here. This is the shadow of the fish on its own fin. Blend that out. Remember, working in layers is always going to help it look more realistic. I don't know if y'all heard that. I live close to the Air Force Base, or Joint Reserve Base, And we have a lot of planes, especially the ones that come sometimes they come like really close to the house. It's kind of loud. Okay, now we're going to lift off these little white striations that are found in the fins, and we're going to start with the highlight on the outside. Now this highlight is going to show up more when we get the background in. So this line, you know how we always talk about all the lines are consumed into the drawing. So we're going to just kind of lift out. Notice I'm just kind of rolling my edge of my eraser. So I'm just rolling it like this. And I want to keep this one sharp enough. On the other side of this one, there's only a couple that you even see. So the rest of those that are back there are just consumed into the shadow. And there is this little spot on him. You could take your dirty tortillon and just add that little spot in if you'd like. It just makes it look a little more like this particular fish. And then we're going to just continue on. So I'm going to probably speed it up at this point and do all of the fins, and you can just watch that without commentation. Okay, now that we have a lot of our highlights lifted off, we can go back in and do any refined lines. You see the dark lines that are in here. My Tertullian was not getting them dark enough, so I am just going to use my pencil, just following those white highlights I just made. And getting the right direction for the strokes here, for the direction that the tail fin is, you know, flowing at that particular moment when this photograph was taken. And you're just going in and putting in a few darker lines. Where they come off of the body. Okay, I went through and erased a couple of the lines from when we did the drawing, and it lifted off some of the ink, so there's not actually a stripe on this particular fish, but I need to erase the mouth in order to see where that is, and so it's going to actually be a little lighter. So the face itself is the upper lip is actually itself a little bit darker than the bottom lip, so I've erased that away, and in order to get rid of this line, we're going to shade a little bit on his face to get that nice and smooth. It is a little darker where this all kind of connects to his body. And you're just making these fine little adjustments now. And now we're going to make these little marks within. Now you can actually come in and on the highlight side and erase away the pattern that you see on the fish, or let's see if I can get this to show up a little bit better for the highlight side. And for I'm actually going to take that out because that's not really what I want to do. Okay, sorry about that. On the shadow side, you're going to lift out, but on the top side, you're going to use your dirty Tertullian to make the spots. So that's why we wanted to create this really light gray here at the top. And on the bottom, we're going to lift out, and on the top, we're going to use our dirty Tertullian. So we're just going to make these little spots to create that scales. And if you look at your picture, on the top part, you can see the dark spots, and on the bottom part, you see the light hitting them until you get all the way down here at the bottom, and you can do that, the little spots again. And I may have to do that with pencil. And as you're coming along here, you're just going to put the highlights of the scales, and you're just touching, pulling back, touching, pulling back. Then you're going to rotate your eraser every couple of, every 2 or 3 times you make a spot in order to not put the dirty pencil back onto. So remember how to clean off your eraser to continue using it. You rub it softly on the side and then make it flat again in order to be able to continue to use this as a drawing tool. So don't lay it too flat or you're going to get a really big scale. There are just a few down here in the dark part that show, and then on the very bottom we can actually kind of make a fish scale look. Don't draw this part dark. It is just a hint of something there. Little something to make it look like scales. Don't have to draw every one of them, just give the indication that they're there. And then as you get towards the top, you're going to actually put the spots in themselves. And they're little round spots. Look at your picture. There are a few highlights of scales on this part. As well. If any of your spots got too large, just take your dirty Tertullian and make them smaller. If any of your spots came out kind of square, then you can fix that as well. Probably should have made these just a tad larger. But you're just trying to make a little bit of a of an indication of some of these. Scales showing. They are kind of in rows. So this is going to take a little bit. My Tertullian is getting pretty light. So I'm going to switch to the back of my book. Y'all remember how to do this. Stay in one spot. Rub a little bit. You don't want your Tertullian to be black, so, you know, don't go crazy with it. You want it to be gray, a softer tone. And you're just going to follow those patterns. I'm just going to make these spots a little darker just so you can see them. They're kind of hard to see. On the camera. And I'm actually going to take this halftone up into this space so the highlight is just across the top by lightening the highlight and then using my dirty Tertullian now and just kind of creating my fish scales. All right, so I'm going to leave that for a few minutes and see where else I might need to do some lift-offs or to add some more highlights on the fish. On the bottom of his stomach down here, there is a pretty bright, so the light's hitting this fin and reflecting back. The light's hitting this fin and reflecting black. So the darkest part is definitely more up this high. So feel free to just keep building your layers. You can always go back in and put in more scales. So let's just get our shadows back in. We don't want to lose those from the blending, so that we have a really, 3D looking fish here. Whoops. All right, so now that we've got the fish, the darkness that we want, you can just go back in and put in your rows of light again, and we're going to do a little bit into our background. And what we're going to do on this background, you can fill up the whole thing, especially those that are doing the double fish, or you can do an aura, and an aura is just where we go around an object and then just kind of let it fade out. And that's going to let all of our highlights really show up. So you want these outline lines to be consumed into the background, as you're working. I'm using the side of my pencil with a medium pressure. I'm not trying to push through 4-6 layers of paper here. And then I'm going to darken that around. I'm going to follow every part of the fish this way. Using the side of your pencil, you can learn how to control that pencil and get it really nice and dark right next to the object, and then it fades away with just that one stroke. So we're going to fade away a little bit. So I'm going to finish all the way around my fish without commentary. Okay, I do want to remind you, as you're working around your image, you want the point of your pencil to follow the line that you're trying to create. So if I were trying to draw this outside line on this side, I'd be shading in the fin. That's why I keep turning my book. Remember, just it's not glued to the table, so y'all just keep following it around. Makes it so much easier to do this particular vignette, and it'll help you in remembering whenever we do like a cast shadow, something sitting on a table or whatever. You follow this exact same process. Now, whenever you get the background in, it's going to help you to realize, oh, do I need to make something else lighter, or do I need to make the background darker, or what am I doing there? Now, these hard lines right here may not blend out, so we're just going to soften next to those. So any place that you have like a hard line, maybe here or here, you're going to want to use your pencil to kind of soften those edges, and you're going to blend out all the way in your background till it gets to the lighter part of the page. Now I don't want to just see a little thin black line. I'm going to blend this out at least, you know, an inch or so away, and I'm just barely touching the paper when I'm out this far. So I'm pushing next to the fish and then softly creating that gradation that you want to do this soft, soft, soft background. Remember, oval, oval, oval is the key to a nice smooth blend. You may have to every once in a while like follow a curve or something. Well, that's fine. And but then as you're going out away from the fish, you definitely want to be doing oval, oval, oval. Now, looking at my picture, I do see that it is still lighter across the top than what I have. So I'm just going to rub my eraser softly across that top, give it a little bit more of a highlight. And I can take the tortillon and do the darker spots just at the bottom. I'm not going to put too many at the top. It does show that there's some at the top in the picture, but I don't want to, it's going to make it dark up there again, and I really like that highlight in there. So as artists, we get to decide where we want those to go and put in any highlights that, you know, wherever we want them to be. Now this large section right here, I'm going to come back in and put in some more lines because it's a little larger than the picture shows. And come back in with some black lines. Definitely coming from here. They're darker, kind of like the ones that we did up here. And this is definitely rounded this way. All right, now I think I could sit here and just play with this fish for a good while, but y'all get the understanding of how to do him. Those that are older, I expect to see both the fish, and you probably want to do them, you know, vertically like they are here. I did this really large so y'all could see the details. And if you want to continue into the background and do some rock shapes or something, feel free to do that as well. I can't wait to see what y'all do. Please subscribe to my channel so that you will get personally each one of the videos that are up. These are just for us, and I want to make sure that you don't miss any of them. So keep coming back each week and you'll see your next lesson. Thanks a lot.